So of course, when we look at the history of portrait, if we want to build an history of art, an history of culture, an history of society based on the notion of portrait, that would be an endless exhibition. We talk about art history, we talk about style, we talk about the progression or the evolution of representation. We also talk about power, because the object, the subject of the portraits are people who are in power, who have the power to commission a portrait, who have the power to build a legacy around their portrait, whether it's, again, religious, aristocratic, or bourgeois, like this young man behind me, which could be hanging in the late 18th, early 19th century in a serious museum, like a museum that has serious work, like painting, frame, heavy, powerful. And of course the notion of portrait, the notion of power comes with the notion of narcissism. So through these images, you also have a study in narcissism. Look at this young person. When you look at this portrait, you can invent a story around him and of self-conscious this character is. Everything is calculated, the way he's holding the glasses, the way his hand is leaning on the table with paper to give people the illusion that he's either involved in writing or doing some accounting business. He's obviously someone who's successful. The hairs show that he's groomed, clothes are fancy, and he projects the image of self-confident, and I would say is a little bit stuffy and a little bit full of himself, like the other young man here, that also could be a painting where you see someone in an attitude of power. Of course, there is something in Cindy Sherman's work that comes back over and over again. You cannot look at these images just for their face value. There is a lot of humor, almost salacious humor in her work. And if you see these images here, that could be, like Botticelli oriented. She's distorting the traditional portraiture, and she makes it both attractive, sexual, and grotesque. If you contemplate the history of portraiture, of self-portraiture, narcissism and power are absolutely central to understand or to read these images. The models, the codes of early portrait representation in painting became contagious even outside of the field of painting to social portrait, to contemporary social portrait. Really, the image behind me, this very official, glorious, heraldic portrait, is a contemporary portrait. Doesn't belong to the room, really, of great master painting. And you will see that in every of the scenario we created, you have these kind of intruders, these viruses that come and make the story a little bit more complex. If you analyze this image, the great master one, it's an image of power. It's an image of narcissism. You have someone here pose actually almost like one of the portraits that we contemplated earlier. The pose itself comes from the history of painting, the way the hand is leaning on the chair, the way the other hand is on the legs, the turn of the body to present the right profile of the portrait, all of that come from the conventional history of portrait, as well as all of the blurry drawings or portrait or photograph that you see in the back. And of course, you can invent a story around this entire room and this portrait. Many institutions in the world are supported by great philanthropists who pride themselves and by making what museums do possible. Their generosity, their philanthropy is the livelihood of these institutions. So they give their collections to the institution, and there is often a quid pro quo that says, okay, well, we're gonna reward you with either naming a room, naming the wing of a museum after you, and from time to time you have the portrait of these donors, these philanthropists at the entrance of the museum or at the entrance of the gallery. So here, in this great master room, galleries, you can imagine that this lady, this philanthropist, is the generous donor that made this room possible, that she donated her collection of 18th, 19th and 17th century portraits to this museum. Not only she impersonate, mimic the body language and the code of representation of earlier painting, she also impersonates power. Actually, you can create a narrative. She lives Upper East Side in Manhattan. She's in her study and she's dressed up. Her hair are just done. She's on her way to, let's say, the Met Gala, where she will be celebrated for her generosity. She's wearing one of the latest model of a Lanvin dress that she's going to wear for the evening, that was recommended by her personal designer, her personal stylist. Very likely, because she might be extremely powerful and extremely wealthy, very likely she will return the dress the day after to the Lanvin store, because she wouldn't be seen wearing twice the same dress. And in the back you see the family portrait that have contributed to a rise to the higher society and to the distinction that finance, power, philanthropy and culture can project on you. And of course, if you talk about portrait, we have to talk about Oscar Wilde. We have to talk about the portrait of Dorian Gray and the fact that a portrait is only a surface. It's only a fixed image, and what's happening behind might be the true person. So when you see a glorified portrait like that, you might want to wonder, but is it the real person? And we won't show it because we want you to come and see the exhibition, but behind this wall, you have the real portrait of this woman. As we're leaving the room of the great master, it became very clear that all of the aesthetic strategies that Cindy Sherman is using are at play in this room. And we are about to enter the room of the masquerade. And this is one image of a woman with a mask that really reveals her interest in this disguise. And that could belong to a movie like Eyes Wide Shut. But there is also details in these images that people might have noticed, in other words, that it's all artifact. She's not lying. She almost exposed her trick. She's using devices. She's using props. And you can see here that the bust and the breast of in this portrait is fake. And that's also something that I think is very important in her work, is that she shows that this is a construct, that this is a language, that the language of portraiture is a language of codes. It is constructed language with rules, grammar, and syntax. But she also, by doing that, revealed that she's acting. She revealed that these portraits are character, and that may be a way to also take a distance with this kind of illusion that a portrait can hold or carry any kind of truth.